The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astounded. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What is this wisdom that has been given to him? What deeds of power are being worked by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joseph, and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Then Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown, and among his own kin, and in his own house." And Jesus could do no deed of power there, except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and cured them. And Jesus was amazed at their unbelief. And then he went about among the villages teaching the gospel of the Lord. A few weeks ago, when our Premier unveiled the road to green, he set metrics, certain things that had to be met for each new phase of the road to green to take effect. As you're aware, the first one was met, and then the second one. And we're looking forward now to what we expect will be the third and the final one, which, according to what we have been told, will take effect when at least 75% of those eligible will have received their second shot of an approved vaccine for COVID-19. And we're about halfway there as of yesterday. In light of that, I want to look ahead to kind of pre-warn you about some changes that will probably be coming. I do this with the caveat that I have no special connections in the Premier's office, and I do not read the future, but I look at what he has told us and what I expect it will mean for us. And when the mandatory order finally ceases, we'll know for certain if what I'm suggesting now will have to be adjusted or not. We have been under a mandatory order since mid-March, a year and a half ago. And our expectation is that once we enter the final phase of green, that mandatory order will not be renewed, as has been done every 2 weeks, because that's all our legislation allows, 2 weeks of such an intrusion of the government into our lives as a mandatory order is. So if it ceases, that basically means there will be no more guidelines directing what we can and can't do at church than were there prior to the beginning of our first mandatory order and this pandemic. The first thing that you will notice is that there will no longer be a requirement to register in order to come to church, or anywhere else for that matter. At this point, I want to thank all of you who've been so patient and faithful with the process of our registering. It's not perfect, but we try to make it as easy as possible and as unobtrusive as possible. And people, you've all been very cooperative with that, and I'm very grateful for that. I also want to thank Joe and Teresa, our secretaries, who are the person, Joe, on the keyboard, if you email, or Teresa on the phone twice a week, letting those know who can come to the Novena Mass or to any of the other weekend Masses. This has been going on week in, week out, without a break, and I'm very grateful to them for that. Once you park wherever you wish, which has not been restricted, you will be free to come into any door of the church. Once the mandatory order ceases, we will again unlock the side doors, as well as the two that are always have been unlocked, and you will be free to enter or exit by any of those doors. If we're required to put more strength to the foundation on this side, I'm expecting that the shift of bodies that went from here over there might take a move back this way, but one doesn't know for sure until that happens. But seriously, you'll be free to come in and use any door. When you come in, there will be holy water available. You're free to use it. You're free not to use it. If you're not comfortable, don't use it. Or maybe just make sort of a dry sign of the cross when you enter into the church. We will also continue to keep the spraying devices that are here at each door, keep them stocked so that those who wish to use them are certainly free to use them. In fact, we have more now than we had, but they've been here, I believe, since about the year 2002 with the H1N1 pandemic, although in my memory that was much less of a pandemic than this one was. But anyway, they've been here that long and will continue to be there if you wish to use them. When you come into the church, there will no longer be limits on how many people are allowed in the church, except what the fire marshal has already said, and that for this church is 498 persons in the main sanctuary of the church. Now, you're about 100 here tonight. 95 to 100 generally is what is coming, so we won't have to worry too much. Only Christmas Eve that we might make fire marshals nervous. So there will be no more limitations that way. The mandatory order won't exist, so there will be no limitations on how far you have to keep from people. Hence, we will put aside the green "Please sit here" notices. We won't throw them out because things can change, and we'll keep them ready in case a new mandatory order or new problems arise. I do ask that you, when this happens, you try to be considerate, because some people will be more nervous than others. Many of us, me included, have had 2 shots, but maybe some of us can't, or for whatever reasons will not have been vaccinated, or the vaccinations may not work very well with us. And so it's still important that we have a certain Christian charity and understanding of others. If someone says, "I'd prefer you to sit another seat up," well, if there's space, try to do that. It's the Christian way. We are a community, and we try to support each other and recognize that different people were coming out of a very major event that none of us has seen the like of in our lives. And so people have reacted differently to it, and that will continue, I suspect, for some time. It's the same with masks. Once the mandatory order ceases, it will no longer be required to wear a mask anywhere, unless they do something other than what we've been led to expect. That doesn't mean that you are forbidden to wear masks. If you're more comfortable to wear a mask, feel free to do so. And again, I would ask great charity on the part of all of us, not to go to someone and say, "What are you doing with that mask still on? You don't need to wear that thing." Smile at them, or "Hi there," or something like that. So that's all I'm going to say this week. Next week I'll speak a bit about what will be happening during the celebration of the Mass. Again, I'm trying to do this recognizing that the mandatory order still binds us, and until it is dismandated, that's not a correct legal term, but until it is dissolved, it will continue to bind us. And should we be informed of changes from what we've been led to expect, then of course we will follow those, as we have tried all along to follow and maintain the mandatory order in this church. And so I just encourage you, as you're in your own situations, to continue to prepare yourself for that. And if you've not yet had a chance for the vaccination, I encourage you to give that a thought too, because the sooner we hit 75% of us, those eligible, then the sooner we can see these changes come into effect. And much more importantly, the sooner we can feel safe, or at least safer, as a community and as a city and as a province.